Hi, everybody. As usual, let's just wait a few minutes to get started. Let me make sure all of my stuff is ready to go. While we're waiting for everyone to join the event, if you want to let me know where you're tuning in from in the chat, and if you've purchased a member special before, what was your favorite one? The member specials are exclusive to Wild Alaskan Company members. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're probably not a member. But I'll say that I'm Kat. I'm tuning in live from Brooklyn. My favorite member special, I have to say, it's weather vane scallops. I know that's like a crowd pleaser favorite. So yeah, what's your favorite member special that you've ordered, and where are you tuning in from? We'll just wait another minute or so and chit chat while we're getting people in here. Hi, Beth. You haven't bought a member special. Well, they're really a really fun way, I think, to add to your box and try some new stuff. So yep, scallops are good. I know that's a very obvious thing to say, but scallops are really delicious. Although I do know at least one person in the world who doesn't like scallops. Ooh, spot prawns, great. Yeah, spot prawns are really tasty. Yes, this is being recorded, Nancy. Don't worry if you can't stay all the way through. So we're just waiting a few more minutes. Well, actually, just another minute. But yeah, tell me where you're tuning in from in the chat, and if you have a member special that you are a big fan of. Let me just do some technical stuff here on my own. All right, I'm making someone else the host. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Sorry for the silence. Lingcod. Yes, I'm a big fan of the Lingcod. I'm a fan of everything. Anything you tell me, I'm going to say I'm a fan of. So wait, Sanana, how do I make you a host? Why is it not letting me give you this? It's not giving me the option. Oh, I think it's from my phone. That's why. Right. There we go. I was looking at the wrong device. So that is why. All right, everyone, bear with me here. We're almost ready to start. And of course, I flipped my camera. 1 second. All right, I have to do a little bit of a thing here. Oh, is it tipping it yet? There we go. All right, everyone, I'm ready. Now the technical difficulties are over, hopefully. So let me reintroduce myself now that we're getting started. I'm Kat from the Wild Alaskan Company recipe team. Today, we're going to be making a really delicious pot of stew with a medley of wild-caught seafood from Alaska. And the stew is only going to take about 30 minutes from start to finish. It has a really fun ingredient list that's packed with flavor. Perfect for this season, especially if you're living someplace that's getting a little chilly right now. I am in Brooklyn, New York, so it is getting chilly. It feels like fall finally. Before we get to the recipe, just some housekeeping as usual. If you would like to follow along with captions, I invite you to do that at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There should be a button that says captions, or there might be one that has 3 dots that says more, and from there you can access the captions. If at any point you have questions during this event, I'll ask you to drop those into the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. It kind of looks like the chat button, but it's not the chat button. That'll just help my team field questions to me and help them answer them on their own. So if you're watching via Facebook, you can drop any questions into the comment section. Lastly, if you do need to leave before today's event over, I did say this earlier, we'll send a link in the next day or so to your inbox. But the event will also be available immediately afterward on Facebook. because, or on our Facebook homepage, that we're also live streaming from there. So you can tune in and rewatch immediately after we're done today. So I'm joined today by a few of my teammates from the member experience team, if they want to come onto camera to say hi and give everyone a little wave here. Hey, friends. So thank you all for being here again. These are the people that are going to help answer questions today, but also they may have helped you with your order or answered questions for you in the past outside of this event. So hello, thanks for coming. And definitely do not be shy. Please reach out to them if you need them anytime you want to talk about wild caught fish. So cool. All right, let's get started. We'll dive into the food here. So today we're just going to drop a link in the chat of what we're making. We're making a creamy, fragrant seafood stew with coconut milk, a mix of vegetables, and I'm a big fan of this stew because it features a few ingredients that give it a ton of flavor. We've got coconut milk, turmeric powder, ginger, garlic, some fresh herbs. It's sort of like a very simplified seafood curry that you can make with really accessible ingredients. And it's a perfect match with any variety of seafood in your freezer right now. The recipe originally was written for Pacific cod, but today I'm going to make this stew with a mix of shellfish, just to make it a little extra special. I've got some Dungeness crab. Let me grab that from my fridge here. I've got some Dungeness crab as well as a pack of spot prawns. The Dungeness crab, I'm going to actually put in frozen. I don't know if you can see that, but that's definitely still frozen. And spot prawns I have defrosted, but they're already peeled and ready to go. So those are going to go in thawed. Crabs frozen, spot prawns thawed. But if you don't do shellfish, or if you don't have either spot prawns or Dungeness crab in your freezer right now, just letting you know you can make this recipe with any fish. It works with Pacific cod, salmon, wild Alaska pollock, anything, like whatever you like. So that's what's really fun about this. I do need to mention that we are currently offering a curated box that is especially designed for shellfish lovers. So if Dungeness crab and spot prawns sound really good to you and you don't already have them in your freezer, you might want this box. It also comes with a pack, at least a pack of weatherbean scallops. I forget exactly how much is in there, but check it out. If you like any of the things that I'm talking about, the specially curated box is right up your alley. We'll drop a link in the chat so you can see what your options are. There are a couple other like limited time curated boxes that are available. These are going to be different than the normal curated boxes that you can always get, like the wild combo, wild salmon, wild whitefish. Check it out. It's worth taking a look at. So, all right, that spiel is over. Let's switch over to my other camera and we're going to start actually cooking now. If you want to highlight my seafood on the counter. I'm going to bring my computer over so I can see what I'm working with here too. So what we have right now, we've got some bok choy and red peppers. These are actually not written into the recipe, but they just sounded like a really good mix of veggies today to me. The original recipe is written with zucchini and tomatoes. So these are like a nice substitute. They'll cook really quickly as well. And they're just nice and seasonal. So that's always a bonus. Got some minced ginger, that's actually garlic, minced garlic and tons of minced ginger. So that'll give this stew lots of flavor, just like really nice building blocks. Some turmeric and red chili flake. If you're not a fan of spice, you can always leave out the red chili flake. And then we've got a big old bowl of chopped leeks, or very thinly sliced leeks. So let me set this aside here so that I can put my pot on the counter. What I also have is a bunch of cilantro, so we'll chop that up later. And can of coconut, just regular coconut milk, unsweetened, of course, because we're not going to make a sweet stew today. And to start this out, we have a pot that should be big enough to fit about, a couple servings worth of stew with some olive oil and butter. So, oops, that's the wrong burner. That's going to burn my tripod here. So I am just going to start out by getting this melted. I did mention that I have Dungeness crab. You'll see this is frozen, and Dungeness crab is already pre-cooked when you receive it. So all you really need to do is heat it up afterward. There's like a bunch of ice on here. It's just the ice glaze that helps to keep it fresh. I'm actually just going to rinse that off because I don't need to be putting a bunch of ice in this stew. It's just going to slow down the cooking process. So if you don't mind, one moment, just rinse this off in the sink and melt off some of that excess ice. All right, and that should help the stew cook a little bit faster. So let's get this a little more melted. The thing that I really like about this stew, well, many things. It's super versatile. You can mix and match the seafood. You can mix and match the vegetables depending on what looks good to you, what sounds good to you, what's good at the market, etc. You can make it seasonal. Like in the springtime, it might be nice to put in something like peas and asparagus. Like the winter, you could do like potatoes or something a little heartier, which will extend the cooking time. But basically what we're working with here is like a really nice base for flavor. So first thing I'm going to put into this now that this is nice and bubbly is the garlic, ginger, and leeks. So I'm going to put that right into the pan here. Another thing that's really nice about this recipe is I'm making it for 2 servings today, but you can really, really easily double it. You'll need a bigger pot than what I'm working with. You can easily double it so that you have just a good stew to put your fish in. If you feel like, you know, you have too much fish in the freezer and you want to make sure you're eating it, just make a big pot of stew and throw it in here. So these are just gonna soften for a little, maybe 2 minutes. I'm gonna add a little more olive oil here. Just to, oh, that looks kind of empty. Just to get that going. So this is just over medium heat. That's a nice temperature to cook any sort of onion or garlic. Get them nice and soft and bring out some of that natural sweetness in this. I also want to say, actually, I'll show you. If you haven't had wild Alaska pollock before, this is a really nice fish to throw in stews because it's already cooked or already cut, not cooked, definitely not cooked. It's already cut into these little bite-sized, spoon-sized pieces. So this is like a fish that I would put in frozen and just let it heat through at the end. But I'm going to make this a totally shellfishy stew today, so no pollock at the moment. So these are smelling really good and getting a little bit of color and getting nice and soft. So next thing I'm going to add is what, like the most distinctive thing about this stew is the turmeric. And this is going to give it a really nice color and flavor, making it super fragrant. And it's probably like the key to making it very much like a curry, between that and the ginger and the garlic. So just combine that. And then I will now add some vegetables just to get these softened up a little. So while those are cooking, I am curious if anyone here has cooked seafood in a stew from frozen or not before. For me, that's like one of my favorite ways to cook it when I just want to make sure that I'm eating seafood throughout the week. You know, I don't have to plan ahead. I don't have to like defrost it the night before. I can just throw it into the pot. And, you know, like I said, there are some seafoods work better than others for this. If you're ever trying to cook something like Pacific halibut, you don't want to have a really thick fillet that you're putting straight into the pan frozen, but like a thinner fillet, you can totally try it and just make sure that you're poaching it really gently at the end, so that you're not overcooking it. So something like spot prawns, theoretically, you know, you don't need to peel them and defrost them. You can you can put them into the pot just like I'm going to be putting in the Dungeness crab, like frozen. But I personally prefer to have spot prawns like peeled and kind of like ready to eat, especially when they're sort of on like the smaller side. Like sometimes if you get like big juicy spot prawns, sometimes they're these like perfect little spoon-sized pieces. So for the smaller ones, I definitely like to peel them first, which is really only possible once you defrost them. So you know, the crab, once this goes in here, it'll just kind of defrost as it heats up, and you know, you'll have to get a little bit messy when you're eating these. So if you don't mind that, this is a nice dish for that. So okay, these are looking perfectly soft. You see that the greens are getting a little wilted. The red pepper will start to simmer once I add coconut milk. So that's what we're gonna do now. I just have like a full can. It's gonna go straight in here. Get all that good stuff out of the can. And that turmeric is just gonna give it such a beautiful color. I love seeing this like red, green, yellow mix of colors, because it just means that there's gonna be tons of flavor in here. So we're gonna get this back up to a simmer. Let me raise my heat just a little bit to speed that along. All right. So now I can see that's bubbling a little bit. This is going to be the perfect time to add in something like crab or wild Alaska pollock if you're doing it from frozen. So once I see bubbles more evenly around here, that's when I'll put this in. All right, let's go ahead and get this going. So I'm just going to make sure that these are nestled into the actual stew or chowder or whatever you want to call this. I like these really nice chunky pieces. Like they're not the legs of the Dungeness crab, but it's like what we call the shoulders. There's so much meat in there. It's really, it doesn't look like crab if you don't know where it's coming from, but it's my favorite piece. So just throw in these little leggy bits here. So this is great because the crab will add flavor to the stew, and the stew will add flavor to the crab. So you'll have like a nice juicy bite when you're pulling the crab meat out of the shells, and the whole dish will just have like a really nice briny sweet flavor to it. So I'm going to put the lid on here so that these will get a little bit defrosted. So does anyone have any questions about anything at the moment?
Yes, Kat, there is one question. If we can substitute anything for cilantro and ginger.
Yes, I know not everyone likes cilantro. So what I would suggest, you can just leave it out, and I would suggest adding basil. So actually the recipe, the way it's written, you can add both cilantro, or it suggests adding both cilantro and basil. The basil at my market wasn't looking so hot today, so I just went ahead and skipped that. But I think any sort of like nice fresh element of herbs will be totally fine. If you can find Thai basil, I think that would be really good in here, but regular basil is good. If basil or cilantro aren't really your thing, you can even just put in something like fresh scallions, like chopped, mix those in right at the end. In terms of ginger, I would just leave it out if you're not a fan of ginger, or you don't have any at home for some reason today. Then the garlic and the turmeric, those are going to be what are going to give the stew so much flavor. I like ginger because it gives a little bit of heat without being spicy, but yeah, definitely one of those ingredients that you can leave out if you don't have it.
And anything to substitute coconut milk for?
What you could do is make this with, what I would do is I wouldn't do like a full pot of heavy cream because that's a lot. I would substitute something just like spot prawn stock or veggie stock, make it like a brothy stew, and then at the end, just stir in some heavy cream so that you get that sort of richness that you're looking for. You definitely don't want to be simmering or boiling cream on the stovetop for like a long period of time because it curdles. and it'll separate and it'll be a very, very unappetizing looking stew. It'll taste okay, but it'll just be like not what you're looking for. So coconut milk doesn't curdle, regular milk, regular dairy will if you cook it too long and too high. So yeah, veggie stock, a spot of heavy cream just until it gets to that like nice richness is great. So
Amazing. That's all for now. Thank you.
okay, well, let me just give this a little bit of a stir. So this smells so delicious. And I know these are still going to be a little bit frozen because these are super chunky shoulders, like I said. But I think they probably only need a few minutes more here. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and add in these spot prawns. So these are basically just going to cook through right as this is finishing. So it's going to take all of maybe 3 minutes. Just make sure that they're in these juices here. And you'll see that the spot prawns, you'll know when they're done because they'll start to become more opaque. They'll start to firm up. If you've ever cooked shrimp before, I probably don't need to explain that to you, but yeah, so those are just going to be nestled in here really gently. I'd make sure to not boil this so that, you know, the crab doesn't get tough, the spot prawns don't get tough, but just have them poach through really gently at the end here. So in terms of the spot prawns, I know that there's a lot of flavor in the shell, and you know, as I mentioned, I took the shell off of these. That is just for my own ease because I want to be able to dig in and eat the spot prawns immediately. But I do always make sure to save the shells. So what I do is I'll take them off and I'll put them right back into this bag. So this is just like the spot prawn shells. And I'll save these to make a spot prawn stock like another day, or, you know, today if I feel like it. So those will just go back into my freezer until I'm ready to like do something with them. There is so much flavor left in these, like especially in the tails and like any of like the little bits of prawn that, you know, you peel that get stuck to the peels, like that turns into something really, really delicious that you can use for any stew that you're making during the season as like a base for sauce. So if you haven't done that yet, I definitely recommend trying it. I think we did drop a link in the chat for that. So do not throw them away unless you really, really don't feel like making stock out of them. You'll be missing out. I'm gonna add a little bit of black pepper to this and some salt to season it up, and I'll give the broth a little taste here. If you are making a stew ever with crab, just keep in mind that crab has like a naturally salty, like a delicious flavor, but it's going to add a little bit of salt to whatever you're cooking. So I would just be a little more conservative with how you're seasoning it until you actually get a chance to taste what you're making. So, all right, let's give this a little taste test. Yum, that's about right. So looking at the spot prawns, it's nice and curled up, which means it's probably done. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my stove here. And let's ladle this into a serving bowl. So this is a stew that you can eat, you know, maybe with like over a bowl of rice, or just as is even. Like all this broth is very much slurpable and having some rice is like nice just to soak up some of these juices, but totally up to you. I guess we'll get this big crab leg in here too. Couple more prawns. All right, so this is what we're about to take a bite of. Really delicious coconut stew with a mix of veggies. Like I said, we use bok choy and red pepper today, plus spot prawns and some dungees, aka Dungeness crab. So let me go back over to my computer here. If you want to switch the camera back. So I can take the bite we've been waiting for. Oh, you know what? I forgot to add. I need to add the cilantro. So let me chop something up really quickly. This will be super fast. The cilantro just goes in right at the end. So whatever fresh herbs you're using, whether it's cilantro or basil or scallions, I really like to keep those nice and fresh, and they'll just go right on top. It'll be double as garnish and flavor, so it's gonna be a crowning glory to this dish, just like that. Yum. So all of those flavors are really gonna come alive once they hit the hot, brothy coconut stock in here. So yeah, there we are. Spot prawn, Dungeness crab, coconut stew. It looks super hot, but I really want to take a bite. So here we go. Not bad for a 20-minute stew. It tastes like it's been cooking on the stove for a long time because there's so much flavor going on in here. But the ingredient list was pretty minimal, I would, relative to what it could be. And, you know, one of like the fastest things you could make. You literally don't need to even defrost something. You can put crab, pollock, spot prawns right into the pot from frozen. So very little forethought required for this, as long as you have some of these ingredients in your pantry already. So good. Any questions about anything that we just made?
Yes, one question. Would you use curry powder or could you add that to this dish?
Absolutely, you can add curry powder to this dish. It'll give it a more complex flavor than it already has. Even something like a curry paste, like a Thai curry paste. Sometimes I'll buy like a little jar, or like a can of that, and like put a scoop of that into the coconut milk instead of turmeric. That'll just give it a slightly different flavor profile, and again, like a little more complex. Definitely will add heat to it as well. So yeah, absolutely. If you have a favorite curry powder, curry paste, you know, those are great things. Like if you like that flavor, those are great things to keep in your pantry if you don't already know that. And just a really easy way to add so much flavor to something like coconut milk.
And if you add a frozen fillet, can you just break that up as it cooks?
You can break it up as it cooks, but I still would suggest that if you're adding a frozen fillet to a pot of stew, try to pick fillets that are on the thinner side. So something like rockfish, I think is great for stew. Rockfish also has a lot of flavor. If you've never had it before, it's a very flavorful white fish. But that I find it defrosts as it's cooking and it's easier to break up. But if you have like a really chunky piece of cod, you're not going to be able to break that up in the pan until the outside's like overcooked and the inside's just, you know, thawed enough. So try doing frozen or fish from frozen. Pollock, like Wild Alaska pollock's great. If you got Wild Alaska pollock fillets, rockfish, anything that's like really thin, like go for it. Any other questions? I think there probably is another question or so.
Yes, one question regarding if you have any recommendations on how to eat it while it's hot and not burning your fingers or getting really dirty.
Okay, I have no suggestions for how to not get dirty other than shelling it beforehand and then just stirring it into the pot right as it's finishing. So I actually don't mind getting a little messy with crab for some reason, but I don't like getting messy with spot prawns. So I have like a double standard with shellfish here, but yeah, you're definitely gonna get messy when you're like cracking into something like this. Like you're gonna want to make sure you have like a placemat and napkins galore, but yeah, that's it. Just have some napkins around, or defrost it, take it out of the shell, and then put it in the pot. That's the only way to avoid being messy. But the shells are really nice because they are like basically filled with all this like delicious curry juice in it right now. So it's a good one to like kind of slurp up while you're cooking or while you're eating.
And great. And one more question just came up. Can you add salmon that's already cooked to the curry?
Absolutely. Any fish, any seafood that is already cooked, I would stir those in right at the end, sort of the same, like around the same time that I added spot prawns, because they will basically just come to temperature. You don't need to cook them, you're just heating them up. So like poaching really gently at the, at the last moment, and we'll start to take on some of the flavors from the stew. But yeah, mostly you just want to flake it in there, heat it up, and then eat it. You can also do the same thing with something like vegetables. If you have a whole container of sweet potatoes that you didn't finish last night that are already roasted, those you can throw into the pan or into the pot and not have to cook it. You just need to like heat them up. So yeah, that's why this stew is really awesome, because it's so versatile.
Perfect. And are you able to, or do you ever use crab shells for this stock instead of spot prawns?
I actually do, if I'm taking the crab meat out of the shell and then cooking the crab meat, and I have all this like a big pile of shells, I will make that into a stock. The crab is pre-cooked, so a lot of the flavor that you would expect to come out in a stock has already like kind of like been spent. But I do find that there are like those little bits of crab that you just can't reach with, with your pick or whatever, that that make a flavorful stock. So yeah, I will, when I'm making spot prawn stock, if I ever have some like crab shells left over, I'll throw those into the pot too. But spot prawn shells are going to be a lot more flavorful because they're raw, they haven't been cooked, or none of those flavors have leached out yet. But yeah, I definitely try to like squeeze out every ounce of flavor that I can from these.
Thank you so much. That's all the questions for now.
Okay, well, I guess let's wrap up. If a coconut stew chock full of shellfish sounds good to you, if it looks good to you, I wish it could smell good to you, but you can't smell anything from where you are. Definitely take a look at the Shellfish Lovers box that I mentioned earlier. The curated box also includes weather vane scallops. I personally wouldn't put scallops in a stew, not these scallops anyway, because they're really good seared, but I'll be hosting an event actually 2 weeks from today to show you how to sear scallops. So they'll have that like really beautiful golden crust on them. So if you get this Shellfish Lovery box, you can make this stew. You can cook some scallops with me in a couple of weeks. I'm super excited to share that with you. We'll drop a link for the event in the chat, but you can also, I think, visit. We have like a landing page for it. I forgot to drop the link in for that, but we'll just drop that into the chat right now so you can hopefully see how I sear some scallops in a couple weeks. It'll be nice and smoky, so but it'll look really good at the end. If you're not a member yet, you're also invited to the event. We have a special offer for you as well today. If you become a member today and use the code LIVE25, that's LIVE 25, you'll get $25 off your first box of amazing fish from Wild Alaskan Company. And you can get access to exclusive member specials like the one I was just talking about earlier. So definitely urge you to sign up today at the Wild Alaskan Company homepage, wildalaskancompany.com. That'll be in the chat too. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in today, everybody. We have another event planned next week. It's not the scallop event, but it's just a regular event that we run where I cover the basic building blocks of cooking and enjoying seafood any day of the week. If you haven't been to that yet, if you're new to wild caught fish, it's definitely a good place to start. So you can join me there. Yeah, and then thank you again for your time, everybody. I hope to see you soon. Live wild.